Sure, you love driving games, but are you playing the very best ones? Only one way to find out. We all think we're pretty handy behind the wheel, so in a way, it's actually quite bad news to find out that driving games are becoming ever more rigorous in their simulation of motorsport. Turns out, many of us actually aren't the next Lewis Hamilton, but it doesn't stop us throwing ourselves into the world of sim racing, or indeed, something more casual. Appropriately enough, this is a genre that actually moves quite quickly, with a few annualized franchises and quick-to-iterate sequels, so we've rustled together the very best races to play right now, particularly with a good force feedback wheel like the G923. As a YouTube voiceover announcing a racing games vid, it's now my legal obligation to tell you to strap yourselves in and wait for the lights to go green or something while we bring you the very best driving games to play right now. We're starting this list with one of the most ambitious and accomplished racing games a developer has ever pulled off. It's one thing to just say you're going to build a massive open world that somehow captures all the best bits of Britain without making any actual geographical sense, and that open world changes season every week, and it'll be full of multiplayer activities you'll keep coming back to months after release. But it's another to actually pull it off, isn't it? You've pulled a worldie here, Playground Games.
Hey, eyes forward! Ignore the camera! Try to look heroic.
Plus, it's definitely the best looking racing game, isn't it? And we're shallow as an Instagram inspirational quote here, so that gets you very far with us. Equally at home with hypercars snaking through tarmac turns at 200 miles per hour, or with a Land Rover Defender making slow, determined progress up Lake District hills, Forza Horizon 4 is a special treat for anyone, especially those mad enough to try and collect all of its ever-growing car roster.
Turn around when it is safe to do so.
Hands up anyone who gives two dump valves about the Blancpain Endurance Racing Series. Anyone? No? Truth be told, nor did we until Assetto Corsa Competizione made it feel like the most tense and tactical racing series on Earth. This is an absolutely uncompromising racing sim that doesn't care if you forgot to warm your brakes up before heading into turn 1. It's a game to revel in the detail of its handling model as you feel the force feedback trying to buck you off your G923 like a Bronco. And unlike the original Assetto Corsa, which also felt fastidiously crafted but lacked a clear motivator to work through the cars and tracks, this is something you can give yourself to in the long term and feel the payoff of chasing wins and championships in a licensed racing series. Do you remember those brakes though? What a revelation the first dirt rally was, going against the grain of an increasingly accessible dirt series that was in danger of losing its cred with the off-road hardcore who still have a copy of Richard Burns' Rally installed somewhere on their PC. It was brutally difficult, moodily lit, and featured zero extreme sports dudes in snapbacks. It was, as such, really great. What does number 2 add? More cars, more rallies, a sense of refinement to every element, gripping rallycross multiplayer, and even more realistic depictions of a wet Welsh morning in the countryside. What really sets it apart from the other races is that rallying is such a totally different discipline, and if you've been on the track races for ages, it's a breath of fresh, if slightly exhaust-fumey, air. Mastering the Scandinavian flick and actually digesting all those pace notes that are being hurled at you, it's a different world here that Dirt 2 captures perfectly.
Okay, nearly time. Get focused.
You're not ticking off championships in old bangers and working your way through to an elite sports car racing series in Beam MG Drive, a physics-based vehicular sandbox that feels as though I made it manifest with the sheer vividness of a cheese dream one night. Instead of the usual racing game structure, you're simply invited to explore the damage and suspension model in a huge array of slapstick situational setups. Maybe it's trying to drive a car over surfaces that you know deep down no one should ever drive a car along. Sometimes it's just good old-fashioned crashing into something really fast and watching your steel horse crumple like plasticine. The only constant, really, is that whatever you're doing it with a maniacal smile on your face that should be kept hidden from others at all costs. They wouldn't understand. With this third edition of Project Cars, developer Slightly Mad Studios breaks free from the shackles of studious simulation to deliver something that wants to be all things to all racing game fans.
That's a great start, mate.
Dial the assists up and it's nearly indiscernible from the grids and Need for Speeds of yore, delivering a big wall of championships to unlock and all the vinyls you can deface a perfectly good car with. But there's still some of the old DNA in there when it comes to the handling model, so with a wheel like the G923 in your hands, it becomes a real wrestling match of torque, traction and torsion. Car ownership works differently now too, letting you buy and upgrade vehicles to meet different categories while expressing yourself with the customization options. Once, it was more of a surety for the Christmas #1 than a singing dog from a TV talent show backed by David Walliams. But then came Need for Speed's wilderness years, spent spinning as yarns we'd heard before in largely forgettable capers. Could it ever regain the old black magic? Of course it could. Right here, literally here, with this game.
Listen, the deal's simple. Client provides the wheels and in exchange you give him your talents.
Heat looks back to Need for Speed Underground and places its focus back on tuner culture, giving you the tools to trick out a huge swathe of cars in a fictional Floridian city. The cops are back to give you a hard time, but they're accompanied by a great risk-reward system that lets you multiply your fame or money by evading them at higher wanted levels or lose everything if you're caught. Also, the soundtrack is banging. Go and play it.
Remember, no prizes for showing up. You gotta win.
I'm making a habit of that around here.
We'll see.
As well as providing a neat summary of Romain Grosjean's Formula One career, Wreckfest is also the name of a preposterously fun arcade racer where the enjoyment happens in the moments you'd usually feel you've gone wrong in other games. The damage model's so detailed here and the races so devilishly constructed that when you crash, you don't feel the same rage as you would in Assetto Corsa Competizione. You eat the loss and you enjoy the spectacle. Events are designed specifically to maximise collisions, which is wonderfully cathartic, but it's not just flimsy slapstick fun. There's a real weightiness to the handling here that really does reward racing lines, a deft throttle, and, well, yes, as well, the ability to tiptoe through multi-car pile-ups happening in real time just in front of you.
Good afternoon, how may I help?
Hello, breakdown service. Yeah, it's Phil again. 10 years on from Codemaster's first attempt at a licensed F1 game on PC, what we have isn't just an impossibly polished racer with all the right helmets and cars. It's a kind of car PG, where you play as a team boss who's also a driver, who's also a livery designer, and probably makes the teas and coffees in the motorhome too. Such is your involvement in every facet of Formula One this time. Running your own crudely named team with its disgusting livery is a thrill unto itself, but watching its performance creep up on the other more established teams is a real long-form payoff. It doesn't happen overnight, but it is possible to go from Williams botherer to the envy of even Lewis Hamilton and that perfect car he always seems to be complaining about. If you can think of a better way to spend, 100 hours, then I am all ears.
The fans really seem to enjoy that. It made it look easy.
Don't worry, you didn't fall asleep while this video started auto-playing again. We are still talking about Forza in the same list because it's a really greedy franchise. Greedy for cars, yes, hoovering up a roster even the most ardent collector would be impressed by, but most of all greedy for our attention, giving us not just the formidable Forza Horizon 4, but also its straight-laced brother, Forza Motorsport 7. You can kiss goodbye to the disembodied voices telling you about an imaginary festival or good job rookie here. It's all about serious cars, serious racing, serious moody visuals, and serious handling. The braking distances cover several postcodes, mid-corner traction is a fleeting pleasure, stamping on the throttle is a fast track to pee last. This is Forza being a driving sim, and it's really good at it. Wheel controls are pretty good too, despite the franchise's console heritage, where most players drive with a pad. So it's a great counterpart for your G923, tearing your wrists off while you learn how much Apex is too much Apex at Brands Hatch. This list isn't presented in any particular order, but I think we all know iRacing is a bit different. A racing wheel is mandatory here, as is a subscription to the racing. These two requirements alone mean that you're unlikely to find many have-a-go Harrys on the grid, just mucking about with it between Fall Guys vac bands. No, it's about as real as it gets, without the risk of debilitating neck injury. Since the racing is so competitive here, oval races are a good place to settle in. No braking distances to memorise, just an ever-changing configuration of people in your way. From there, you've got GT cars, open wheelers, famous circuits, and a well-organised league system where proper esports careers are waiting at the top of. Those are our picks for racing game fans to play right now, but what about yours? Let's see your own faves in the comments, and frankly, I'll be heartbroken if I don't see my summer car get at least one mention. Subscribe to Logitech G to catch our new videos every week, and hit the bell to make sure you never miss us. Leave us a like if you can manage one complete lap of Assetto Corsa without hitting the gravel trap and screaming into your sofa cushion in frustration, and catch you next time.